Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Lena and welcome back to another video. So, I have talked to you about my favorite fantasy books of all time. I have also talked to you about my favorite science fiction books of all time. So today, we're going to talk about my favorite non-SFF books. And it's kind of a lie already, because you see, I don't really read that much outside those genres. So when I made those lists, I was thinking mostly about, in the fantasy category, in epic fantasy and something like that, and in science fiction, mostly like First Contact with Aliens, space opera and such. But I didn't take into consideration, for example, horror books with fantastical elements, which is mostly what we are going to talk about today. Horror like thriller, no. Horror with something. With something sci-fi, with something. So today, let's just basically talk about books that are actually SFF, but the SFF element is not like the main one. Let's just get started. So in number 10, we have House of Leaves by Mark C. Danielowski. And this book is so weird. It's so weird. In kind of a brief summary, this is basically about a house that is bigger on the inside than on the outside. Yes, like the TARDIS. Yes. So we have this guy basically recording everything. He used to be like a famous photographer. He's recording everything, and then after that, another guy comes in, gets that footage and writes a book. That is House of Leaves. But then another guy comes in, finds the manuscript that is House of Leaves, reads it, gets his annotations there, and then publish it. And that's what we have here. Because this is not House of Leaves by Mark C. Danielowski. This is House of Leaves by Sandman, and with introduction and notes by Johnny Trent. That's what we're talking about. This is a book within a book within a footage within a book. This is a really weird book. If you're thinking about weird books, this is going to be number one for you, because House of Leaves is a horror story that makes no sense, but it's fucking amazing. It's told in, do we call this mixed media? Because it is just weird. You know, there are blank pages. We have a color font, by the way. We have the word house is always on blue. And when the devil talks, I'll just say it like that, it's red. It's just so weird. So weird. As you can see, it's just terrible. And the ones that you see, this type of font, are the annotations of Johnny. And it's just so weird. We basically are witnesses to Johnny's slow descent of madness. Amazing. I love this book. It's not a book for everyone because it's really weird. It takes so much time just talking about sources, basically, because this is a textbook on the inside. It will fuck your mind because you will believe that this is an actual book, like a real book with a real story. And that's the worst part of it. That's what is so terrifying. Like, it feels real. And it has enigmas and such and anagrams throughout the book, so you will be really entertained. It is weird, I love it, but it's fucking weird. Then, on number 9, we have Metro 2033 by Dmitry Glukhovsky. I'm only including the first book here because I hate book 3, and I didn't love book 2. So for me, this is now a standalone. Even though I still own like the entire trilogy, this is just like, I'm actually rereading Metro right now because I've been in a super weird reading mood. Like, it doesn't make any sense, so I decided to reread this. It is just amazing. In this one, we are set on post-apocalyptic Russia, and people took refuge on the metro tunnels, basically. And each station is just like its own kind of city with their own ideology, with their own like rules. It's amazing. It has a political commentary, and it also has weird fucking things because every tunnel here in the metro is kind of alive, and it's fucking terrifying. There's a scene that I still remember. I read this series more than 10 years ago. I still have that memory encrusted in my head because Artyom is just going through a tunnel and he hears his name just really close to his ears, and I was reading that and I was just scared as fuck because he has to go with their with his eyes closed and he cannot open them, and he's just like something like in Bird Box, and it's just the claustrophobic feeling, the darkness of the metro, everything is super cool. There are also like mutated creatures. We have the dark ones. It's super creepy. It's my first time reading it in English, by the way. I'm listening to the audiobook. This is my Spanish edition, all beat up and old. But I love this. I love this book. This is one of my all-time favorite books. I love Metro. I love Metro. Then this is pretty stupid, you know, but I didn't felt right just putting this one with all the epic fantasy. I know, it's weird, but I'm including here Sandman by Neil Gaiman. This is the death tome. It's just only about death. It's fucking amazing. I just love it, and it's just so pretty, and it comes with the little ribbon, bookmark ribbon. I love Sandman. Sandman is my favorite graphic novel of all time. I just love them. I've been rereading this series with the new Audible adaptations, which are amazing. I would highly recommend that you try that. We only have like the first one, which adapts tomes 1 to 3. So amazing, try that. In this one, we basically follow the god of dreams, basically Sandman or Morpheus or whatever you want to call him, and he's been captured. So everyone has been having like these problems. Some people never wake up, some of them could never sleep. Every tome is just like a different story. It's just so cool, so cool. I love Sandman. I'm going to do a book a video about my favorite graphic novels, but yeah, Sandman is my favorite. I just love it. So then we go to number 7. Yeah, Rules for Banishing by Kate Alice Marshall. Again, this is mostly a kind of fantasy book, but you know what? It didn't fit with all the epic fantasy books, so I'm putting it here. But I love this little book. I've talked about this a lot, but I just like it so much. It's basically about this girl, Sarah, and she receives this message telling her that if she wants to see her sister again, who basically disappeared a year ago, she needs to go into this part of the forest and try to find Lucy Gallows, which is kind of a local legend here, and just take this road that leads you to a fucking nightmare realm. And it's just so cool. So cool. I loved it. I just reread this very recently on December. I liked it as much as the first time. It's a mixed media book, meaning it has messages and interviews and, you know, videotapes. So cool. I love this book. I won't say anything else because I have already talked about this one quite a lot of times, like a lot of times. Like a lot of times. But Rules for Banishing, I love it. A book that is not horror. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a mystery thriller. Well, it's basically more of a mystery novel than a thriller. But in this one, we follow Andy, and for her final project, she decides to take on this murder that happened, I think it was 5 years ago, where a girl was murdered and the boyfriend was accused of it. But he basically committed suicide, and she is basically convinced that he didn't do it. So she's going to prove the whole time wrong. It's just so cool. Again, this is also mixed media. I love mixed media books. I love mixed media books. They are so fun. It's super intriguing. I read this one in a day, just like with Rules for Banishing. They are so addictive. I do really want to read the second one, Bad Blood, but please, if you just like, it is not technically a cozy mystery, but if you just like really kind of intense mysteries, I would highly recommend this one. It's just great. The twists are fantastic. Highly recommend this one. Super cool. But yeah, A Good Girl Guide to Murder. I really need to read the second one, which is a podcast, by the way. So it's going to be fucking great. In what number are we? 4? Salem's Lot by Stephen King, which in Spanish is called The Mystery of Salem's Lot for some reason. But this is hands down my favorite book by Stephen King. I'm not really into Stephen King. I have read like a good chunk of his work, but I'm not really into that. But still, I love Salem's Lot because vampires. I love it. I just reread this also quite recently. It was last year. Maybe 2 years ago. But this is one of my all-time favorite books. I love that adaptation that not that many people like. but I love it. With Rob Love, this one. I love that movie. I was obsessed with that movie when I was like 13, 14. I watch it constantly, and it's also a super fucking long movie, by the way, but I couldn't help it. I just took it from one of my parents' friends, and I was just like, can I have it? Can you lend it to me? They're just like, sure. And I would just watch it, repeat a lot. I just love that, which is not such a bad adaptation of the book, by the way, but still, Misterio Salem's Lot. We follow a writer that comes back to his hometown, and he has always been fixated with the Marston house, which is a house on the top of a hill. Super creepy, but now something weird is happening. Someone has moved into the Marston house, and I told you before, there are vampires in this book. It's just so good. It's such a cool take. I love it. I love it. I just love this one so much. Then let's talk about some few honorable mentions, because I cannot resist this. Because we were talking about vampires. Nosferatu by Joe Hill. I love Joe Hill, by the way. I have read almost all his works. I love it so much. I was going to talk about Lock and Key in this video too, but I was just like, you know, with one messed up, it's enough. It's enough. This is about a girl who can basically... It's really weird. It's just... She basically can find things. If she goes in her bicycle with this bridge, she can kind of teleport and find things. It's really weird. But there's one thing she cannot find. Son, because he's been kidnapped with this guy called Charles Manx, and he takes them to fucking Christmas land. And as someone who doesn't like Christmas, this is a fucking nightmare. But again, as the name says, this is also kind of a take on the vampire trope, and it's just so cool. So cool. It's super chunky also, by the way. I do recommend the audiobook. I did really like the audiobook for this book. But yeah, Christmas land. But yeah, honorable mention, Nosferatu. Talking again about vampires, I wanted to quickly mention The Strain by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. I don't talk much about this series on this channel anymore, but I love it. I love it. It was one of my favorite series as a teenager. I binged the whole thing. Well, not the whole thing. The first 1 and 2. The third one I had to wait until it came out. But the day that it came out, I was just like, where's my book? Where's the book? It's basically about this airplane that lands in the airport. Everything seems okay until it stops in the middle of the thing. And then all the lights are out. And no one is answering. When they get inside, basically everyone is dead. So they call the CDC, and we follow Ephraim, and he gets in there, and you know what? He starts seeing weird shit. And also, vampires. I don't want to tell you too much. I think this first book is the best one. It's just so cool, even though the second one has like this whole takeover thing, and it's just really cool also. But the first one is amazing. It has a shit ton of mystery. You're just like, dude, corpses are disappearing, you know, bodies without blood. You're just like, come on, you can do it. It's really good. I also really like the TV show adaptation, by the way. It wasn't perfect, but I still really enjoyed it. I watched the whole thing. It's really different from the book, especially the latest seasons. They are really, really different. They were, oh my god, there was one thing that didn't happen in the books that happened in the TV show. It was just like, it went. I almost lost my shit there for a bit, but still, great. I love it. Then a non-fiction book that I love, I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. I cried reading this book, which is weird because it's about the hunt of the Golden State Killer? Is that the name? It's just I have the name in Spanish and I'm losing my mind right now. But yeah, Michelle McNamara was a person that was really into true crime, and she basically wrote this book. The sad thing is that she passed away just before they caught him, and that broke my fucking heart. There's also a adaptation of this on HBO, which is also great. It's a documentary, basically. Super cool. I cried a lot with the epilogue of the book that was written by her husband, this guy. And yeah, It's really good. It's really good. I felt really identified with her because I studied criminology, so I have a thing for true crime, but it was amazing. I really love it. It's not going to be for everyone because it's really info dumpy. I mean, it's basically about her hunt for the killer, but I do really like it. The last honorable mention, Bird Box by Joss Malerman. I really love this book, and I think that I'm going to read it this month because I'm in such a weird horror mood right now. But this one is basically about this kind of incident that start happening. Basically, some people are out there in the street, they see something and they lose their fucking mind. Like, they basically try to kill themselves. It's a really weird book. It's a really weird book, but it's so creepy. The fact that you have to go everywhere with your eyes closed. There's nothing more terrifying than that. It's just like, so scary. So scary. This was the first audiobook that I ever listened to. What was I thinking? I don't know, but it was so fucking scary. There's a scene here with them in a well, they are trying to get water, basically, in the house that they live in. To get to the well, they have to go through a couple of meters outside, so they always go with the thing over their eyes. And the narrator was so good. He was just like, there's a part when they are trying to pull out the holy shit, they are trying to get the water basically, and they are getting thing up, and the main character starts hearing something in the fucking water, and they are just like, maybe there's something there. What if there's something there? What if we bring the water inside and there's something there? And it's just so fucking creepy. I almost lost my shit while listening to that part. But also, Bird Box, fucking amazing. Now let's just get into top 3. You will probably know this already, like, I'm so predictable, I'm sorry. They were also in the number 3 spot for my best books of the year. Grady Hendrix, anything by him basically, because I only have to read some more books. I don't think that I'm going to like one as much because I'm not a huge fan of books that follow music bands. I don't know why, it's just like a really weird pet peeve of mine. But the Southern Book Club for Slaying Vampires, about a woman that discovers that his new neighbor is a vampire, and my best friend's exorcism, about a girl who discovered that her best friend is possessed by the devil. They are pretty self-explanatory, both titles, but man, I love this. They are both horror. This is more contemporary than horror, and this is more mystery than horror. Well, more thrillery, I will say, more thrillery than horror itself. But in both of these, there are scenes that are fucking disgusting. Grady Hendrix always includes a scene that, fuck, it's so fucking disgusting. But yeah, both of these I love. I completely adore. I have talked about them enough, so I won't go into much detail again, but I love Grady Hendrix. So number 2, Vita Nostra by Maria and Sergei Dyachenko. This was also my best books of 2020 list because I love it. But this is basically a Russian dark academia about this girl. She's having a good time, you know, until one day this guy comes near her and he's just like, you know, you're going to swim into the ocean at 4 a.m. or something bad will happen. And she's just like, what the fuck? But then she goes, she does it. And basically, when she gets home, she starts throwing up golden coins, which is kind of the path to get into this school, which is so fucking scary. It's not as scary as is kind of, there's a lot of anguish in this place. It's a sad place, you know. It's feel kind of claustrophobic. I love this book. Again, I'm not going to talk that much about it because I just talked about it a couple of videos ago. But still, this is so good. I don't think that it's going to be a book for everyone because it's really, really slow. It's just like her trying to understand everything, losing her mind a little bit all the time. But still, I love this. I love this with all my heart. I cannot wait to read it and try to understand everything. It looks short, but the font is so small, so small. So there are 400 pages here. It's longer. It feels longer, but fantastic. I highly recommend Vita Nostra if you like, you know, slow reads with really weird things going on, like in House of Leaves, where it's just weird all the time. And number 1, is this ever going to surprise anyone? Probably not. But The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stewart Turken. This is technically a sci-fi book, maybe, but in my mind it's a mystery, a murder mystery. So I'm including it here. That's it. But man, I love this book. In this one we follow Aiden, and he wakes up in this gigantic mansion, and he is told that if he wants to escape, he needs to save Evelyn Hardcastle, who is going to die every day at, I think it's 8 o'clock, and he has to stop that. And to get into the bottom of this crime, he's going to wake up each day in a different body. And the thing is that the bodies that he's waking up in have different personalities that will inflict their kind of conscience into Aiden. And he's really different depending on whose body he's inhabiting. Like the first guy, Bell, is like a really quiet guy, so he's just like, oh yeah, I need to save Evelyn. But then he's just inside a fucking psychopath, so he's just a bit cuckoo for a bit. But yeah, I love this book. I love the concept. Please, if you have anything that is at least a little bit similar to this, let me know. I'm dying to get more books like this because I cannot find them. I was hoping that the next Stewart Turken book, oh, you cannot see it, The Devil and the Dark Water, was going to be similar, but it wasn't. It was a bit of a disappointment. It's still a great book, but I need something like, I want a mystery book, like a murder mystery with this really complicated twist. Not just like, don't recommend me Agatha Christie, please, because I have already read them, so I'm not going to be surprised. But I want murder mystery with sci-fi twists. That's what I want. Those are my thing. Give me something like this, please. So, yeah, those were all. I really just stopped talking about my favorite books all the time. Like, this don't surprise anyone. Like, but please, if you have any of the any recommendations for books that I have asked about, please let me know. If you have read any of these books and you love them too, please also let me know. I just love to feel the love. But that's going to be all for today. So, as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!